For coming out today. It's an important meeting, and we don't generally get this kind of turnout, so we're really glad to see everybody here. We have a couple of very nice presentations that we're going to have. Once the presentations are completed, you guys will have comment cards. If you raise your hand and you need another one, Karen will walk around and get them for you. Once we've completed those presentations, we'll collect those comment cards and we will answer questions off those. We're asking for the comment cards just because if we can't answer some of the questions, we want to have your information so that we can reach out to you by the end of the week to answer your questions. Today, our presentation is going to consist of our roads managers going to go through the community roads program with you. It'll be followed up by our finance director who will talk about the financing for the program. And I'm going to turn it over to Fred to go through the presentation.
Thank you all for coming. This is absolutely fantastic. I didn't know how many people would show up. A year and a half ago, we had a couple of community meetings for roads program, and we basically had a couple of candidates at the time for council, and maybe 2 or 3 members of the public that came to those meetings. So I didn't know what to expect today, so this is wonderful. Thank you. I have quite a few slides, but I can go through them quite fast because I will focus only on the information that I think we need to focus on. You can stop me at any time, but questions would be at the very end, please. So a little background here, simple history, Measure L passed, Measure A passed, and that basically gave the city a revenue stream to start planning on fixing the roads. And Mayor Bublak announced the roads program initiative in 2021. And within a few months, I came to the city to take over that program. As part of the overall approach to fixing the roads, first of all, you need to have some sort of basis for selecting your roads, some way to plan how you're going to attack fixing the roads. And the database that we use is Street Saver. It has a whole bunch of information in it, and I will show you a few screens in there so you can see what kind of information is available to us as far as planning which roads to actually fix. The database was last updated in 2013. So that's, the roads fall apart in the meantime. Obviously, you have all seen that, so we needed to update that. The city hired a consultant to basically do a survey of the entire city network, basically all the streets in the city, and they used LiDAR. LiDAR basically is a technology, laser technology that collects. If you process all the information that it collects, you can basically develop a 3D image. So that is used for the survey purposes. It cuts down the amount of field survey that the designer needs to do during the actual design of the streets. LCMS is basically, again, it takes photos of the surface of the road, and I will show you a picture of that so you can see the network of cracks on the surface of the pavement. That is the basis of assigning a number, which is a pavement condition index, from 0 to 100 to each street. Now, streets are not. I will get into that. You will see it's a little bit more complicated than that. This is LCMS. You can't really see the street that well on the lower right, but there's a pattern of cracks there. The picture that you see is vertically, is looking down on the surface of the pavement, and the colored lines that you see are obviously the crack patterns. Different colors show basically how wide the crack is. So the engineer who is looking at this gets an idea of how cracked or deteriorated the pavement is. There's a program that goes along with this that automatically analyzes the overall condition, and together they can assign a pavement condition index. Now, a lot of this is also verified by the engineer by going to the street, to the site, and actually making sure that some of this data is back-checked and it makes sense in the field based on the actual condition that they see. As part of the same contract to update the city's database, the designer also designed these 15 streets. If I go into Street Saver, this is the first screen that I see. It's a dashboard and gives me a whole bunch of general information about the city's network. Let's take one street that we did, Wayside. It runs from Gear to Pioneer. If I look at that street in Street Saver, you see 5 rows shown for the same street, which means that the street is divided into 5 sections, varying length. And if I were to look at this in a different table, which you see here, Wayside is on the left side, and you see the 5 sections from 2 shown, and each section has a different pavement condition. And you see the length of each section, and they're not equal. The engineer in the field looks and says, from here to here, for this distance, it looks pretty much regular, same kind of condition. So that's the distance, that's one section. Then they look at the next section, maybe for the next 1,500 feet. It's pretty much in the same condition, so the length of that section would be 1,500 feet. And it has a certain condition number assigned to it. So if you look at the staff reports and you come to the council, you see in my staff reports, the 5 columns starting from the left are the ones that I show. Basically, I have the name of the street, the sections of that street as shown in the Street Saver, the PCI, or the pavement condition for each section, and the length of each section. Now, if you look at the 2 columns from to, and you put those sections end to end, that is Gear Road to Pioneer. So that is the entire street. But in Street Saver, I can't see the whole street as one. I see it only as different sections. So this is another view that I see in Street Saver. Whole bunch of information, and I will zoom in on one section. On the top right, you see a map that basically shows what this section is. It's from Olive to Pioneer. And the little curve that you see at the bottom, that's called a deterioration curve or degradation curve. It basically starts at 100 at the top, and over a period of time, it basically projects what the condition is for that road. So after so many years, it comes down to basically 0. So this is a little bit of a close-up of the same table, and you see the type of information that is there. There's a section ID, begin and end information, the type of pavement that we have, asphalt, concrete in this case, number of lanes, and top right you see constructed 4/26/2023. That's when the road was paved, and I updated the information as far as the condition of the road based on it having been paved. So this is another screen that I can have in Street Saver, and it's projected treatments. Remember that curve? It basically says if the condition of the road is this program predicts that in so many years you need to do this. And I'll show you a little bit close up here. Remember, it was done in April 2023. At that point, the pavement condition was updated to 100. That curve now projects that in 2024, this was done a couple of days ago, the pavement condition is down to 94. Now keep coming down, and you see that if we do nothing to the road, the pavement condition starts to come down. Well, road deteriorates, it ages, so naturally the pavement condition index comes down. And you see in the year 2030, after 7 years, pavement condition is expected to be around 83. And what do you see all the way to the right and in that column? Slurry seal. So in 7 years, the program is telling us it's time to come and put a slurry seal on this road. And if I do that, the pavement condition jumps in that year from 83 to 90. So at that time, the moment that we slurry the road, I go back into the program, change that information, automatically it becomes 90, and the curve starts basically recalculating. I'm going through all of this because part of the overall program is long-term maintenance of the road. The moment we update the condition of the road, this projection changes. So as we fix the roads, there is an ability here to see in so many years what type of repair needs to be done with the road. So it's not me sitting there keeping track of that the old-fashioned way on a piece of paper. No, all the data is here in the database, and it automatically can be generated and updated. Question that has come up a few times, and I've answered this a couple of times during the council meeting, but a lot of you probably have not been at the council those meetings. How do I approach the selection of a road to fix? Based on the council's direction, residential areas in districts 1 and 2 have priority, simply because of the poor condition. A year ago, my challenge was not which road to do necessarily, how to pick them. It's where do you start? Because so many of the streets were in basically the same state of disrepair. So, but overall, as a general approach, I look at the PCI for a section, different sections of a road. Then I put the PCI together, pavement condition, for the entire road. Remember, Wayside had 5. So one clue is 1 or 2 sections are really in bad condition. Now I look at the entire road and see what the condition is for the rest of the road. I also look at the condition of the roads adjacent, in the same vicinity, crossing roads, parallel roads. The idea is, if we are going to fix a road in an area, can we bundle together 2, 3 other streets in the same area and make them into one construction contract? What are the impacts on residences and businesses? We have to be aware of that. I spend a lot of time driving the streets, and I use my own car because I know the feel of my car, and it's not using different city vehicles and having a different feel. It's my own car. I drive it. Ride quality is very important in some cases because the condition of the road may be poor, but one ride's much better than the other. So if I were to choose between the two, I would go with the one that has a rougher ride. So that comes into play to some extent. I walk the streets quite a bit. Somebody called the police on me. Who is this guy walking? Okay, I have my safety vest, I have the city hat, I have my badge. The police still showed up. But that's all right. I walk the streets, and a lot of times neighbors come out and they are curious, and that's nice to be able to tell them that something is in the works and tell them a few things about the roads program. So I walk the streets and I look for the challenges ahead. What are we getting ourselves into this? When I go to the Street Saver program, it only tells me about the condition of the pavement. It doesn't know anything about the condition of curb and gutter, any drainage issues. It doesn't say anything about the condition of drainage in front of the driveways. Why? It doesn't know anything about that information. That information is not there. It's something that I visually have to assess out in the field to put the entire scope of rehabilitation together so the consultant, is it coming back hopefully? Okay. Oh, here it is. Magic. That's the magic touch we always need, the finance director, right? So we look at the drainage. If we are fixing the pavement, we have to address the drainage. You don't want the water to be collecting there on a street that you just paved. Water causes deterioration. So a lot of times the problem is tree roots, they have pushed up the curb and gutter, or for some reason the curb and gutter has deteriorated, has fallen apart, or the gutter pan in front of the driveway has dropped down, has sunken, so it collects water. So the water does not freely flow along the flow line, which is along the curb. So to correct that, we have to replace the curb and gutter. You do that, you're also affecting, perhaps if sidewalk is directly behind it, so that section of sidewalk has to be replaced, or it affects the driveway itself because it's sunken in front of it. You have to raise that, reconstruct it. That affects the driveway. You have to repair the driveway or replace the driveway. When you do that, adjacent portions of the sidewalk have to be replaced also to make the grades work. Why do I say this? Some people, unfortunately, are under the impression that roads program is going to replace everyone's driveways or repair sidewalks. That is not the focus of the roads program. The focus is on the pavement. The focus is on making sure that the drainage issues are corrected so the pavement does not deteriorate rapidly. And the nuisance of water collecting, ponding, flooding is eliminated to the extent possible. In the process of doing that, as I mentioned, we may have to replace some sidewalk. We may have to replace the driveway. That's when the roads program calls that incidental to fixing the road, and we can actually do that. I've had a few calls over the past couple of years, people saying, my neighbor got a free driveway. No, it's not a free driveway. It's done because it is necessary for the proper function of the drainage, and it's good for the road. It was necessitated by that process. Right-of-way issues. You drive around town, you are not going to know that. A lot of people have built on public right-of-way. So to the extent possible, if we are there, let's say we are at a corner, we are building an ADA curb ramp, handicap ramp basically. If we are doing that, and somebody has put their fence directly behind the sidewalk or has put landscaping directly behind it, you put a curb ramp in there. Now, the amount of concrete that you put in there is wider, and it's going to basically affect what they have built within the city right-of-way. To the extent that we can, we are going to avoid impacting the residents. If we are going to affect it, we work with the property owner. Generally, we replace in kind, depending on how much we are dealing with. If it's a shrub relocation, we can do that. If it's resetting a little small landscape wall, maybe we can do that. Well, we try to work with the property owner. But these are issues that we have to look at. These are easy issues. There are areas where we simply do not have the right-of-way, or we don't think that we have the right-of-way. So if you look at the construction coming up this year, Columbia all the way west, that reconstruction starts from Lander and ends at West Avenue. Why? Well, what about the rest of it? The rest of it, as far as right-of-way, that's kind of iffy, what type of right-of-way we have. So that takes a lot of effort. So it's on the back burner. Same thing, for example, with Davis and Radio in that area, those small streets. We have to resolve those issues. It's not like we forgot. No, we need to move ahead. We don't want to be bogged down. We put it on the back burner. That's on another list of projects with challenges. So these are the things that we have to look at. We don't want to go jumping into a project, look at the street, and find out that there are obstacles in there that basically delay the whole bid package. We're also looking at general plan requirements. If you came to Gear Road, general plan speaks loud and clear on what needs to be done on Gear Road as far as bike lane, as far as median requirements, access. An active transportation plan, that's the bikes and safe route to schools, basically. Those are the ones that affect us the most. We also obviously coordinate with the Municipal Services Department because a lot of our underground water and sewer and storm, they've aged, quite frankly, right? So you don't want to come and build a new road on top of a structure that needs to be replaced or repaired. So we work with them. They know what projects are coming up. They can look at the condition of their facilities and see if they need to have a program to replace those ahead of the roads program. So we want to do that to the extent that we can and make sure that we don't have to go and break up the road to fix something underground if it can be fixed now ahead of all of that. So I have a list of several projects. It all looks good. I go to the field, and I feel good about it. These are a bunch of streets that are reasonable. We can build them into a bid package for a contractor. I also have to look at what projects I would like to do in the same area. So, and be kind of mindful of, I'm doing these streets. What's the impact on the next batch of streets that I need to do in that area or in that vicinity? So it's not something that I do it's with an eye on the future projects. I have to look at that too. So what I'm getting at here is that basically it's not a formula that you plug in some numbers and you get an answer. There are a lot of elements that go into this process, and that's the simple part, right? After that, we have to actually design the project, and then we have to actually construct the project. So construction is totally different. Once you take off the pavement, you don't know what you're going to find under that. It's not like the city has had so many projects over the years where we have a history, a backlog of the conditions, the type of soil, and what in general we are going to run into. You end up with some surprises in there. So nothing is done until the construction is over. Then we know what kind of challenges we have actually faced and hopefully have overcome. The overall idea here is to come up with a reasonable selection of streets that we can put together as a bid package. And you will see that. I will show you some of the bid packages and how those have been put together. So a contractor can mobilize in one area. Hopefully residents are inconvenienced in that time period for those projects. There's an eye on the future projects that are coming in that area. So there is a mechanism or a sequential approach to fixing the streets. To the best of our ability, we try to minimize impact on residents, but you know, with construction, there are going to be a lot of inconveniences. So with all this design that we need to do, we actually sent out a request for qualifications for consultants to do the design for all of these streets that we are selecting and we want to design and construct. The council on April 25 of last year awarded 3 master agreements to the consultants that you see there, Mark Thomas, Provo and Pritchard, and Siegfried. And also 3 task orders. These task orders are basically like amendments or assignments under the terms of the master agreement. So their legal terms are in the master agreement. Task order basically says what streets, what is the schedule, what is the scope for it, what is the schedule, and what is the cost of it. So those task orders were for a total of 22 streets, 5.4 miles, and you can see them in blue on the map. The first consultant, Mark Thomas, divided their streets into 2 bid packages. Bid package is what basically a contractor bids on, and you can have different contractors for each one. So the first bid package that they developed is for the streets south of Canal. The other one is for streets north of Canal. The second consultant developed everything into one bid package. Same thing with the third consultant. So we ended up with 2 bid packages for the first consultant, 1 each for the other 2, so a total of 4 bid packages. And by law, we advertise those for bids. You can see on the left side the bid package. That's the city project number. In parentheses is bid package number. Advertisement date, the bid opening date, and the lowest bidder. Then you can see the amount of bid. That's the amount that the contractor bid. The next line is engineer's estimate. When the engineer, the designer, estimated what the potential cost would be, that is their cost. And you can see that the bids came in lower than the engineer's estimate. So if you look at the totals at the bottom, you see that there's a savings of $4.7 million based on what we had budgeted and what the total bids are. So if at the end of construction it all materializes, there are no change orders, unforeseen conditions, that's the money that can be used for other streets. So the council awarded on May 14 4 contracts, construction contracts, and you can see the lowest bidders listed. And again, same information that I had in this table, just arranged a little bit differently. And when we do this, we also need folks to oversee the construction. Contractor needs checks and balances. There are specifications, design plans that we have to make sure that the contractor follows. That is the basis of their bid. That is the basis of paying them for the work that they actually do in the field. So, similar to design, we issued a request for qualifications for consultants to provide construction management and inspection services. And on February 27, the council approved master agreements to 3 consulting firms. They also approved task orders, 4 task orders. Again, remember we have 4 bid packages, 4 projects basically to be constructed. So 1 task order for each one to provide pre-construction services. That was approved a little bit earlier, ahead of the bid, so the construction management firms could actually get geared up, set up everything, and do a lot of constructability reviews ahead of the actual bid. And then on May 14, the rest of the services were approved. So when you look at these, this slide here, all the services that a construction management firm needs to provide to properly oversee the construction of these bid packages is included there. Now, these are the same 22 streets, presented a little bit differently. You see them on the map. And on the left side, you see 4 tables stacked from top to bottom. And the header, let's pick the second one. It says NV5. That's the CM firm, construction management firm, that is going to oversee the construction of those streets listed in the table. And in the parentheses after that is the name of the designer, the firm that designed the plans and specifications for these streets. We also took the Gear Road rehabilitation to the council last year in, August already. Time flies when you're having fun, right? And for up to 30%, because we wanted to see what we were getting ourselves into and also present those plans to the public. So we held a public information meeting on April 17. In this room, we had plan sheets all over, and we basically made a presentation to the public. I believe only 12 people showed up. That's my excitement here, to see a lot more people. And after that, on May 28th, we made a similar presentation to the city council, and we are ready to go back to the council with the task order to do the final design for Gear Road. We have applied for grant funding based on the schedule of design and schedule of hopefully receiving grant funding for the project to supplement the monies that we already have for the project. We are looking at mid to late next year for advertising for construction. And this is Gear Road in all its glory, 2.6 miles from Golden State Boulevard all the way north to Taylor Road. Design has to continue. Lots of streets to design and put into the system to advertise for construction, to construct, to oversee the construction of. So this was the next round of design for a total of 12.8 miles of roads that are currently in design. Did you find yourself on the map? I can hold until you find yourself. Yeah, we can talk about that after the presentation, or I can give you specific information. Absolutely. So remember, we have 3 design consultants. These are the streets that one design consultant is designing right now. If you look at on the map, the top left part, that's Andre Lane area. Streets in that area are going to be expedited for advertisement for construction this year because we want to get those done ahead of Gear Road construction. So that's Regis, Tampa, Niagara, Gettysburg, Andre Lane, and all 6 cul-de-sacs off Andre Lane. And these are the streets that the second consultant is going to do. If you can see in there that little L-shaped street in yellow, that's Meadowlark. That's at the corner of Tuolumne and North Olive. And then you have the Donnelly Park area. Those streets, again, are going to be expedited this year, so we can be done with those streets before Gear Road construction starts. Again, it's that timing, the sequencing that you have to do, an eye on the future projects. What do we need to do a little bit faster than the other ones to basically clear the area so you don't create congestion of construction in one area? And the third consultant has these streets to design, and that's what they're doing right now. So where are we with the roads program thus far? Remember the 15 streets? These are the 15 streets. Oh, here we go. I went too fast. These are the 22 streets that we talked about. These are the ones that are going into construction. We have had the pre-construction meetings with the contractors. So 3 of the bid packages are going to start on June 17, the next one on June 26. And when we say, let me just, when I say it's going to get started, folks in the neighborhood are going to receive a notification that basically construction activities are going to start on these streets in your neighborhood. It doesn't mean that the contractor is going to be out there working on the first day that their contract starts. They have a window per contract from this date to this date, which is given in the notice. During that window, they schedule their work. And the first thing that they generally do is they do all the concrete work, any curb gutter replacement, any impact on sidewalks and driveways, curb ramp construction at the corners. They will do all of that first. Then they come in and do all the road work that is necessary as far as the pavement. And then we have the Gear Road that we went over, and this is the last batch that the council just approved a couple of months ago for design. These are in design right now for construction as the packages become available. Like I said, there are 2 bid packages that we want to expedite later this year ahead of Gear Road construction. And the same maps overlaid here together for a total of 27.7 miles in either constructed, to be constructed this year, or ready for design and construction through 2026. This is another table. Again, a whole bunch of information. Don't worry, all of this information is going to be available on the roads program webpage, and I will give you the webpage address here. And you can go there, hopefully as early as tomorrow. We can post this information and also the link to the video. So you can go back and take a look at it. If you have additional questions, give me a call, send me an email. Email works generally better because it gives me a chance to look into your question and give you the full answer. But when you look at this, every roadway has classification here based on, let's say, the amount of use, the importance to the overall network, how much traffic it moves. So at the top is arterial, like the arteries in your body. The most amount of traffic are accommodated. These are generally higher speed and more number of lanes. So we have 3.77 miles of arterial, constructed or in design, and 6.58 miles of collector. And you go towards the bottom, you see 17.38 miles of residential. Remember what I said at the beginning. The council's priority was District 1 and 2 residential priority. It doesn't mean that we cannot do other streets. As you can see, we have done other than residential simply because you need to move traffic. So as we fulfill the council's direction to focus in districts 1 and 2, we are not losing our focus on fixing arterials and collectors so everybody can have the benefit of being able to move through the city. This is another slide that I recently had at the council. There's a lot of maintenance that should have been done over the years. Funding wasn't available, planning wasn't in place, whatever the reason. So we have to catch up. There are a number of streets out there that are ready to be slurried. We want to go ahead and do that. And the first step is to go ahead and seal the cracks and then come back with a slurry over it. The moment I do that, the moment the slurry is there, I will update the information in Street Saver, and now I get an update or a schedule on the next round of maintenance that I need to do on the road. Long-term maintenance, yes, all these streets that everybody's investing so much money into, we cannot neglect. We have to come back in a couple of years and take a look and see if there is any cracks that coming up. Everything cracks. So you got to keep an eye on it. You cannot neglect it. Water gets in there, and next thing you know, cracks are wider and deeper, and you have the beginning of a big problem with your subbase, and pavement starts to fall apart, and you get all the nice potholes that you see all over the place. So we have to take care of the roads. So there's a program for that. Like I said, every time we fix a road, the information gets updated in Street Saver, and now I can see the next round of maintenance that I need to do on that road. Future design projects. The goal of the roads program is to always have shovel-ready projects so we can look at the funding that we need for the project and also kind of have an eye on how much work we can actually put out there. It's not like contractors are all over the place ready to jump on our projects. There's competition out there. So we have to have an eye on the market and see what is the best time to put these projects out. So that's where we are with the roads program. I hope I didn't go too fast. This is the roads program webpage. We are always trying to update this. If you go to this webpage, at the top of the page, I did it intentionally because you started to write it down, right? It will come back. It will come back, and I can give it to you at the end of, yes, here it is. Here it is. Go ahead. Hopefully it stays. Yes. You go there, at the top of the page, you see 3 bars, long rectangles, click on each one of them, there's a lot of information there. And there will be a fourth bar hopefully tomorrow, and that, if you click on that, you get all the information that is presented here, and you will have a link to the video for this presentation. Are you breaking the rules, sir? No. No, we have a short presentation by our finance director, because one question is, how are we going to finance all of this? And he has all the answers. After that, by all means, sir. Thank you.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Isaac Moreno. I'm the finance director for the city. So we'll give you a brief overview of what the funding is going to look like and how these projects are going to come together. When we started looking at this program and expenditures and how the projects were coming together, we were estimating originally about $15 million a year just in projects. What you've seen today is an accelerated version of what the program originally started with. That to try and get the money going further, get the projects out, the more we can do faster, the more we can pay for at a cheaper price, because construction just always gets more expensive, right? So you're seeing a project getting accelerated. So what that means is, on an annual basis, I really have to come back financially and talk to the council and talk to Fred and work in conjunction on how we do the programs. So your primary funding sources are what you're seeing on the screen here. Your two big ones are really going to be your Measure A and your Measure L. So those are both sales tax measures. Your other funding sources, such as gas tax, SB1, these are all being currently utilized for some time now. They are used for maintaining roads too as well. But as we said in the beginning, prior to Measure A, the funding source wouldn't keep up. I mean, if your funding source is just doing maintenance and you're not doing construction or reconstruction or whatever that task may be for that specific road, you're going to wind up where we're currently at today. So council really had to go out and try and find a new funding source so that we can actually have a program that makes sense. So these major components are going to do multiple things, but we'll talk about that a little right now. So what you're seeing in this table right now is what I call cash flow, okay? So if you look at the overall tables, what we're doing is projecting out revenues and expenditures, and also taking about when we're going to be issuing debt and what that looks like too as well. So in the revenues for 24-25, you can see the revenues coming in about 12.3 million, but expenditures at 27.2. But you can also see that you have reserves coming in from the prior years that's going on. So what we do is we need to be able to forecast this out all the way out to 29-30. The way we do that is we build in escalators, looking at our revenue streams and what that looks like. We'll see a chart next that'll help you get all through this. And you see your escalators that you need for expenditure, because your costs are always going to go up continuously. So we'll look at the next slide. This will really help you understand what the funding stream looks like. Not with this. It'll be on the website. So this gives you a better overall picture of what the overall funding streams look like. So you can see from that gray bar, that's going to be your expenditures, right? That's going to be your structured projects as well as your maintenance programs. Within the budget of fiscal year 24-25, we're increasing our overall factor of how we're doing maintenance. So Fred's developed a new program where they can slurry seal and crack seal by identifying a funding source to do so, and really start the roads program from a maintenance perspective as well as a construction perspective. Just like he said, you got to hit both sides of it, all right? You'll be able to have a developed program so that your money can follow along with it too as well. So what you're looking at in the blue is going to be your reserves, money that's coming from the prior years that's going to be utilized at a future date or in that period. You're going to see your orange is going to be the next one. That's going to be your current revenues coming in. Okay, so Measure L, Measure A. Your financing, which is going to be your bond proceeds. So we do project to issue out about $29.5 million in the next coming fiscal year to be able to get these projects to continue to grow. Again, his budget for the next fiscal year is about $27 million. So we need to be able to make sure we can stay ahead of that from a funding stream. So like I was saying previously, this program is really accelerated overall, but the model hasn't changed. The funding sources are still the same factor. So we've always practiced going towards these funding sources to be able to make sure we can keep this program going forward. So you can see the projections out going through the year and making sure the revenue streams do keep up with the overall projects. Now, same thing when I talk to council about this, we're going to have a conversation every year about this program because the projects are going to change, the dollar amounts could change. We have to be able to actually stay ahead of the program when it comes to the funding side as well as the construction side. So why is that important? So if we can't look to the future to see how our dollars are going to come in, how do we know how we can actually afford it when we're going forward? So that's why you have to do this on an annual basis. You just don't forecast out in the beginning and say, let's go. You got to come back, readjust your scenarios, readjust your numbers, and again, come back and make sure we can keep up with the program itself. So from a financial standpoint, that's basically how we're going to be able to cover these projects and continue to escalate the program and move it forward through the years. So I'm not like Fred. I don't have a lot of slides. Mine's pretty straightforward. Go find the money. So if you have any questions about the funding source, I'll be free to answer any questions as well. And I think we'll open it up now for questions. A little bit better.
I answered the easy ones only. I saw a question in there about Columbia Street. Columbia is there for construction this year. That's one of the projects in one of the bids. Let me. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. No, that's really a different project. So my responsibility is the roads itself. So the portion that we are basically doing as part of this contract is from Lander all the way to west. So it's going to be totally reconstructed. So as far as parking in general, we maintain the parking pattern that exists, unless there is a reason to basically disallow certain parking or open up an area to parking. We haven't looked at, I'm trying to remember parking. If they park in your driveway, that's a different issue. That's a, yeah, yeah. Right. That becomes an enforcement issue at that point. So, and I don't think we can do anything as far as design. That's the behavior.
Yeah, in that sense is that they need, there's more parking.
Yeah. Okay.
Now you say that the area is gonna be done, now I don't know the proper terms, because I know sometimes they remove everything that's there and you're down to the dirt.
Yes.
Or whatever it is.
Yes.
Versus the slurry, I think it's just thin layer.
Right. Slurry is more of a maintenance, and it's basically sealing the pavement. And it's done when the pavement is still in good condition. So, yes. Yes. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be totally, honestly, it's going to be totally reconstructed. So, and remember what I said as far as construction, you're going to unearth stuff that maybe you didn't expect. Engineers do cores. They take cores at different locations. But it's basically a drill that comes in and takes a sample, a core sample through the pavement, so you can see what you have as far as the pavement and then they go in 5 feet to see what is there as far as the ground, the soil that is there, what type of base material you have, what type of native material you have. But those are only good at the exact location that those cores were taken. You go 10 feet away, you might find something different underneath. There are several sections that we have come across concrete. What are the limits of the concrete? We don't know until we remove the asphalt. If you are closer to, let's say, Lander, and you look closely at the street, you see something that looks like tar below the top asphalt in certain areas. That's called oil cake. That's from ages ago. So it was a dirt road, gravel road at some point, and they put petroleum products, oil basically down, and over a period of time it penetrated and created a solid mass, and that's your oil cake. So in some areas it's still present. So those are the surprises that come up during construction. You have to address them during construction. You go ahead and remove the asphalt, and now all of a sudden you have soil that is absolutely unstable condition. You cannot compact it. That means you cannot really build on it. Now you have to remove all of that and replace it.
Your time is up.
Did somebody call the police on me again? My goodness. So that's what we have, the things that we have to basically handle as we find them, we come across them during construction. But yes, your road is going to be totally reconstructed. Quite a bit of the curb and gutter has to be replaced. So you're going to see a totally different street. I don't want to raise your hopes up. No, I want to tell you that it is going to be totally different once it is done.
Well, in the 18 years I've been there, I don't recall once that the street has been done. They dug up for pipe work, but it
No.
hasn't been done.
Correct.
But I know there's a lot of tree roots, and I know that the pipes were fake, and so the roots have gotten into pipe.
Sure.
And some drainage issues because of it, so I know that it'll be a lot of work that area.
And don't be surprised if the work gets dragged on a little bit, because that's the nature of it. You dig it up, and whatever is there, now you can't just cover it up and move on, right?
It takes however much time you need.
Right.
I'm glad that it's gonna get done.
Okay. Right. So when you get the notice and it has certain dates in there, just keep in mind, we are at the mercy of what we find underground. We are at the mercy of the weather also. So,
All right, Fred, are you ready?
yes.
Some of these have been turned in before the presentation, so some of them have already been answered, but the west side is often neglected. I think it was already stated, council direction was districts 1 and 2, because the question being, will any priority be given to the west side streets?
Any specific streets?
Yes, we have a question about,
Oh,
when
I'm
will
sorry.
construction begin on Beach, is the
Beach?
next question.
South Beach is,
It's really important to me because I'm one of these bad people that live all the way out to the street.
oh my goodness. Now, don't look at the camera, because nobody has seen your face. Yes.
So I have to move a bunch of large plants, like a huge rosemary, and I need to know when I need to do this. I need some
Yes.
notice ahead of time.
Oh, sure. What street are you? We can talk about it.
I'm between Park and Flowers, so my street has been the follow through of all the construction equipment for 9 months in front of my house, everything.
Do you have a carport?
Yeah.
Okay, I know where you are. I have actually talked to you. Yes, I have. Yes. So, yes, after this, we can talk. We work with the residents, okay? Even if you have encroached on public right-of-way, we do whatever we can to accommodate and disturb you as little as possible. But remember, there are certain rules as far as what we can and cannot do. So these are all public funds, so a lot of times, yes, we talk to the property owner, they have to do their part as well. Yes, I'm saying that in general, yes, yes. in general, those are the limits. And yes, we will talk after this, and I'll make sure your house is taken care of during construction. We do, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about the timeline for your street. You will receive notifications from the contractor in addition to the notification that is going out in the next week or so. During construction, you will get residents, we get notifications. If they are going to be affected by the construction, there will be door hangers. Contractor will actually try to reach every resident, so you will have advance notice. Let's say your driveway is going to be affected. You will have minimum 72-hour advance notification. If your parking area is going to be restricted along the street, signs will be placed at least 72 hours ahead of time, and you will have door hangers. So those notifications will be there. When you receive the notices, it's a one page. One side is English, the other side is in Spanish. Save that, please, because there are two contact numbers in there. One is for me, the other one is for the construction inspector. So anything comes up, those are the numbers to call and make sure your questions are answered. Sometimes the contractor, they have subcontractors, they do whatever they do in the field, and we don't know anything about it unless we receive a complaint or somebody calls and says, hey, they did this and they didn't complete it, or maybe they broke the sprinkler line. So we need to know those things, and we would appreciate you guys saving those numbers and calling us and letting us know.
All right, Fred, we have two questions here pertaining to Olive. Do you have any idea when Olive is going to be repaved? One specifically is Minnesota to Christofferson?
Yes.
Perfect. He does know it. Let's see if he'll share it.
I generally don't share too much information before I'm ready to go to the council, but rest assured, that's high on the list.
Okay.
Because it's still here and in my plans, I have to do exactly what I said in there. I walk the street. I know what the scope is. I'm working with consultants to develop the final scope, to develop the fee, develop the timeline for doing it, and be able to go to the council. If I go to the council without that information, I haven't done my due diligence. So rest assured, it is coming.
All right, this one is about Gear Road. In regards to Gear Road, do you have a timeline as to when North Avenue is going to close?
No.
No?
No, because we are still far from that point, and to what extent North Avenue is going to be affected, that's something that we are going to know probably in about 6 to 8 months, when the design plans have progressed to a point that we have an idea of how we are going to construct the entire Gear Road. It needs to be constructed in phases and sequences. Where does North Avenue fall in there and how it's going to be affected? We are going to have another public presentation coming up for Gear Road. So, and you, again, will be notified at that point, and we will have a better idea of what the timeline might be for contractor closing North Avenue. In all likelihood, it will not be closed. During certain operations, the access is going to be restricted.
Okay, we may need Maria's help on this, trying to read your writing, Maria, but she can send pictures. So repairing of streets between South Glenwood and West Glenwood on South Walnut. There is also a bus stop safety issue here, West Linwood to Kilroy. Repair timeframes?
I don't have a repair time frame, but
Maria, thank you.
top secret information.
Whoa.
I'm looking at the entire Linwood. So,
How about South Walnut? Is there a patch between West Linwood and West Linwood?
yeah, that's something that I'm looking at too. Remember, I have to stay within the guidelines that the council has given me. I will look at certain roads and see how it is feasible to take it to the council, meet the requirements of staying within certain parameters. So I'm looking at that. I'm trying to give you an answer without giving you too much information because I'm not at that point yet. But Linwood, yes, the entire length of Linwood, I'm looking at that.
Yeah, because on this, South Walnut,
Yeah.
there's a bus that comes first for kids there, and then lots of people going to the church.
Yes,
Lots of trucks coming through, and it's just drivable. Sometimes I even have to go around to be able to drive through to get to
Yes.
the river. So we greatly appreciate that.
absolutely.
Hawkeye and Johnson going toward Tuolumne. Do you have a timeline of when this will be fixed? Hawkeye and Johnson.
There's a patch there.
You're talking about Johnson?
It's like
Johnson between,
Johnson, Tuolumne.
Yeah.
But it's actually closer to Hawkeye. There's an area right there.
it's terrible.
It's terrible.
Well, I know. Yes, I know. My goodness. Let me look at this. If you look, you're talking about this area? It's from here to here, Hawkeye to Tuolumne.
Yes.
That section is in design. It will be done. Actually, I'm either brave or on Thursday, when it's going to be 105 degrees, I'm walking that street with the consultants. So we are looking at their design plans, and this is another time that I go out there with the consultant, walk the street, make sure that the improvements that they're showing on the plans are in line with what we need to do. So yes, it is in the works. Absolutely.
All right, Fred. Has any consideration been directed to High Street between West Avenue and Soderquist? If yes, what are they and why? Is consideration given to the type of vehicles using the road in a residential area?
Yes, consideration has been given, but again, I'm looking at the condition of that section versus the condition of other streets. So if you look at what is getting done in that area, that section is coming.
Okay. How long?
I can't give you that timeline.
I say that.
Yeah.
How long? Will it be the next 5 years?
Oh yes, at the pace that,
All the streets around us.
yes,
Even half of our street, and then it's stopped.
right,
4 years.
right.
So I just would like a
No, it's not 5 years.
no, I know that. 5 years coming down the road, or it'll be within the next 5 years?
I can tell you it will be within the next 5 years because at the pace that the roads program is going, yes, yes.
High Street between West Avenue and Soderquist. So that you actually had a question about vehicles. The next question is gonna be enforcement to prevent vehicles from parking, driving on curbs, sidewalks, et cetera, due
Oh.
to the weight of these. And have you had any
No, that's enforcement.
enforcement?
We can't do anything about that in design. Yeah. And one thing to also consider, in those areas, right-of-way is an issue. In some areas on the west side, the road is actually built on what seems to be private right-of-way. There are prescriptive rights for that, but that's something that needs to be studied and to make sure that we can actually go back and reconstruct, or whether we have to ask for right-of-way to be purchased from the property owner. So some of those streets on that side, they get a little delayed simply because of the challenge of securing right-of-way.
You showed 3 bond tranches through fiscal year 29-30. What is the value of each?
I didn't think I was going to get any questions. Thank you.
I wrote that question.
So this is it's coming back to the table that was kind of difficult to see. So let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. So the 29, the 55, and the 40, those are the tranches of what we're issuing out. Again, these numbers could change coming to the time period in which we're doing what we need. It's coming back to what I was saying as far as the model, having to update it on an annual basis. But those are what we're projecting at the moment. It comes back to the bar charts and making sure we can keep up with the revenues and expenditures as we go through the program. Council's given authorization to issue bonds. What we'll be doing probably in the next couple months. We're doing the first tranche, and we'll go from there. We're looking at all funding sources, state, local, trying to also lobby to get other grants for the program itself. It's always been a projection to try and get as much grants as we can to assist so that we're not, one, trying to issue all the debt out, but also make sure we're using our revenues appropriately. So any free money, cheap money, matching money we can get, we will try to go after. Yes? Yeah, of course. Sure. Mm-hmm. The blue is actually reserves, so monies that had come from prior years. That's what you'll see in the orange, the dark orange. Mm-hmm. So your revenues are using escalators and how they're going to come in. What you'll see is that it starts to taper down as far as reserve because you're starting to issue more debt. The more debt you issue, the more you have to pay that obligation. So you're matching the whole thing as you go through to make sure that you have a decent amount of reserves, but you keep moving forward. So the object is really, you're issuing here, but you're using the money here and here, right? So you may be issuing it for 1 year, but it's not for that year's projects. That's for the couple of years of projects. And then we do it all over again. And we go from there. So then, for example, in this bar, what you're doing is you're utilizing more debt, but you're actually starting to build your reserves that will build up into the next year's carried forward. Does that answer your question? Sure.
Quick question on that markup on your expenses.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's expenses or expenditures, but does that include the debt service?
it does.
It does. Okay.
Actually, you know what? I'm sorry, that is not. That is just construction projects. What I do is I reduce the revenue streams to offset those debt payments. So that's why you'll see the revenue streams coming up and down. The more we issue, obviously the more debt you're paying as you go forward. So you can back that out so that you can keep up with the projects.
So the financing proceeds, in those 3 years are the bond proceeds, but then the debt service, where does that show up then?
Debt service is neutralized out of the revenues. Because all you really wanted to capture is the revenue side.
Like in 28, 29,
Mhm.
no bond proceeds, but where does the debt service of 6 million show up?
Let's see.
Does it shrink?
It shrinks your revenues. So when you're projecting out, you look at your expenditures, and they get neutralized out inside the debt, or in the revenue column. Because what I'm trying to predict in this chart is the actual true nature of the projects that are going forward. So we're backing some out of the revenue already to capture that debt structure, to make sure it's paid for. And you can see the debt payments right there too as well. And again, we'll post this so you can see it a little better on the website.
All right, we have questions here. Access to the CIP, Capital Improvement Plan, access to pavement management report, access to general plan. All of that is available online. So if you go to roads program, you will have access to PMS. So you go to the roads program, click on one of the tabs that says the update, roads program update. So you get a PDF. The PDF gives you a rundown of everything that has happened up to this point, and by date, there is also a live link. So if you go to 9/13/22 date, there is a link right there. So you click on that and you can get that. And I believe we have also posted that separately online. Let me take a look at that. I'm sorry, can this person give me an email address or some information that, Bruce? Yes. Yeah, if you can give me an email address, I can find the exact location. Huh? Oh, please do that. Yeah.
And that link that you mentioned that has the live information, is not, can we see like that street saver dashboard that you were showing?
No, that's for internal use, yeah. CIP, for example, it's for all of our projects, and I believe that's coming to the council in June. I don't have the date for it, but that will be presented, and it's also available online. Every time it is presented to the council, it's also available online. The other one was general plan. General plan is also available online, so I would be happy to send you the links to all of those. Yes?
I have a question on, how do you know the difference between the money that you received on the project from Measure L versus Measure A? When you're working with the project?
I rely on our finance director. My job is easy.
So when it comes to the funding sources, they're pre-identified going through the scopes. When you see the items come to council, within the staff reports, it'll identify what those funding sources are. So traditionally, so far, we've been leaning on a Measure A. In this coming fiscal year, we're going to lean more on Measure L and kind of balance that out a little bit, and then also slight debt structure too as well.
I think my question is more of visibility.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that, there are some signs at the project
Mm-hmm.
that is put out there that says, this project funded by Measure L.
Correct.
And it gives you a dollar amount, and then, or you combine both of them. I'm thinking about the East Avenue project, I didn't see a sign for that. I know that probably shouldn't cost over $1. Until there was no signage out there. Under the agreement that the city has signed with Stancog, you're supposed to, from my understanding, you're supposed to have signage out if it's over $250,000 project for streets, roads, curbs, gutters, sidewalks, traffic. So, basically what I'm saying, where's the signage?
Sure. So to your point, you're correct. Well, multiple funding sources have different parameters in which they're utilized. Measure A is not so strict, but we still like to put the signage out there too as well. SB1 is utilized, has to have proper signage. Measure L does require proper signage. So I'd have to go back to that project to figure out what that funding source is to properly answer your question. So it may have been utilizing a different funding source, so I wanted to do that, but I'll have to look into that. I can get back to you if you like, though.
Now, the rest of your question, sir, was, did the consultant also provide an asset inventory? When they take the LiDAR information, it basically picks up everything that's in the street. But physically, somebody has to go and extract that data. So it is in there as a point cloud, basically, but somebody has to physically go in and process that and call out that information and do that inventory. The data is available, but no, it is not available separate as a list of all the signage or any other asset information. Valid point, all tables and data point need to be readable. So, yes.
Yeah.
Can we, just on that, can we enlarge this?
We can try and get it a little bigger.
Yeah, we can
What I'll probably
enlarge
do
the
is,
table.
if that's the data that everybody would like to see, I'll take it off of this PowerPoint and put it onto a PDF, You kind of use the Excel table that I use instead. It'll give you a clearer picture overall. So I'll make sure we'll do that. Okay.
All right. Yes.
So I have a burning question here. When the terrible rains, which we needed rain, needed water, came this season, it created a lot of damage up and down the streets, a lot of potholes.
Sure.
How is that reassessed into what you already have going on? Some of them are just horrific. I've seen some patches here and there, but maybe not the complete street. I had an issue with my tire because of it. I had to have it replaced. The wheel, had damage that I needed to replace. I did the tire, but not the wheel. So how does that come into fruition to getting the roads fixed? Certain sections that come into mind for me, there's a South Tui, that did there's some patchwork, and that being canal to West Main, but not all of it, so there's still some work that needs to be done. There's another patch, West Avenue South, Montana, Linwood, really bad. So, and again, that's after the rains and so forth. So how does that come into play, or what can we do as residents to bring attention to that?
Well, as far as,
The pothole,
yeah,
it's like a whole section
right.
repair.
Pothole repair is a different process than the roads program. Pothole is just the quick maintenance that they have to do out there, fill the hole. But roads program is the long-term fixing of the road. So there is a maintenance department, and there is a number available online. Then you can report the pothole. That's the temporary fix that they can do. Overall, as far as the road itself, it has a PCI, a pavement condition. So from that standpoint, it's already on my radar based on its condition. And then obviously when I go out and take a look at the road, I can see visually what the effect has been since the road was given that PCI.
So if that strip has so many potholes, that really needs to be just redone because you're swerving like this and
Right.
turning about like that, you don't damage your car during that whole piece. That's still gonna be not under review.
Correct, because for roads program, we are not going to do patchwork. Yes, for roads program, we are looking at the entire length of the street to the extent possible, so we can have a contractor come out and fix that length of the road. The goal is that the fixes are going to last so many years. You're talking about 20, 25 years with proper maintenance that can easily exceed 30 years of life. So the goal of the roads program is long-term, but the maintenance department takes care of the short-term. There are times when what you are referring to, it requires some patching, not just fixing a pothole, taking out a portion of the asphalt and patching that. That is outside of the roads program. Yeah, there's a question there first. Yes.
Take the turn between the state boulevard and Bell's Lane, it's kind of a few right there, and there's construction happening. Especially if you're gonna put more apartments there, it seems like that road would just be horrible shape.
It's right now under construction. Yes, yes. See, it's so bad that you have been avoiding it. Honestly, that's what happens. You have been avoiding it, but yes, it's under construction right now. Yes, yes. And speaking of Dell's Lane is also on the radar.
Fred, I just wanted to jump in.
Yes.
The program you have is great. Thank you for the council's direction. And you are the right person for this job, so you
I appreciate
do a
that.
great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
How do you say a thankless job because, as quick as you do one road, there's others that need attention. But I think overall we see progress, we see a plan, we see priorities being addressed.
Excellent. I appreciate the comment.
Be patient within reason.
Yes, within reason.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
One more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Still associated with the potholes versus the repair. There's a section north of there that I saw that's on your list, which is Canal up until Hawkeye. That's another big street that's really, really bad. So,
Where's that, north than there?
yeah, so that's gonna be between, Canal and Hawkeye. And, which is like basically next to the TID building. Up to Hawkeye.
Yes.
I believe I saw that there.
Yes.
What would be the timeframe for that? I'm thinking, do I need to go to the website for the potholes and say these fix ASAP? Or not really?
Potholes, go ahead and report those, please. Because potholes are basically a safety hazard.
Right.
That's why the maintenance folks get out there, and with that temporary patch, at least there's something in there and lessens the impact on the travelers. But this is where we are. The idea is right.
Right.
So it is under design.
Yeah.
Yes. That section is in bad shape. Yes. Thank you for being patient. It is getting done. So, yes, ma'am.
Just one more time, in terms of like West End being reconstructed again, is that a high possibility that looking into South Walnut, going towards Linwood, West End to be also
Yes, if we actually do that part, South Walnut will be considered as part of
is
it.
there a timeframe?
No, no. Remember, I need to stay within the guidelines of residential. That area does not really fit residential, and it's hard for that area to compete with residential areas, right? As far as priority that the council has given me. Absolutely.
To kind of first, but this is Montana.
Don't talk about Montana, please. I actually wanted to put Montana as one of the examples so you can see for the entire length of Montana. You have probably 10 sections broken out because they're all in different conditions. So in Street Saver, so you're piecing together 10 sections. Then along these sections, you have a couple of assessment districts. So the road all of a sudden for a few feet looks absolutely wonderful. Then you have a couple of sections that are partially in the county. Then you have a couple of sections that are fully in the county. Then you have a few sections that the right-of-way has to be looked at. So yes, I have been looking at it, but it's kind of like I have to choose where I want to spend a whole lot of time on. I definitely want to take care of Montana. Rest assured, I want to take care of that. The challenges it's kind of like you get bogged down as opposed to doing 2 or 3 other streets. But it is coming. The roads program does not walk away from challenges. Rest assured. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just had a question on road maintenance, and I've been a big advocate, been down here several times over the last couple of years about, sealing cracks and all that kind of thing. My question is that, see, I come from way back when, is that when you lay down slurry, you seal the cracks, but then you put gravel down. So I guess they don't do that anymore.
Not in city conditions. Now with the faster traffic, you get all the stones and everything knocked.
I
Yeah,
figured that was probably it with windshield repair.
right, right.
Everything else, but from everything I've always read, that's certainly a much better way to maintain the road.
Right.
Laying down.
One of the ways to kind of basically improve on that is to come back with another slurry on top.
Oh, okay.
So that becomes like it's called a cape seal. But again, if most of the roads that we have in the city, that's kind of like a waste of money.
Yeah, no, I mean,
They are,
we don't
yeah,
have really horrible weather or, compared to a lot of places and, doing certain things that doesn't make sense.
right, right.
Is there for all of, per se, is there a consideration for recipes or the formula for the road that will be put in there? Specifically like rubberized asphalt or keeping down the noise because it's a high traffic
Yes, we definitely look at that. Yes, we do. It's a matter of cost. So when we are looking at the pavement type that we want to use, rubberized asphalt is one treatment that we look at, but the cost generally ends up being much higher. It is, but it has to be the right application. Oh,
We have a list of projects here. How long of a time frame are we looking to get completion on the current list?
you're talking about these.
All the ones that you're,
Oh, let me go back.
your whole setup there, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. These are all done, paved. So we are working with the contractor. When you do the construction, there are always things that, okay, that it wasn't done this way or that way. There are fixes that need to be done. The next step for us is to have the final striping and pavement markings. So what you see out there, if you see it peeled up, it's because it's temporary. So the final striping is going to be there. The final signage needs to be there. So that's what is left of these 15 streets. We are wrapping those up. These are the 22 that are going into construction. So the 4 contracts that were awarded by the council on May 14. So on 3 of these contracts, the contractor is starting on June 17. The 4th one starts on June 26, which means the contractor can actually be out in the field. They have to do potholing, which is basically figuring out by digging down where the shallow utilities are. So then they can also get started on the concrete work. So all of that they can actually get started on. So we are hoping, keep your fingers crossed. Every time I say this, something comes up and delays us. But based on the preliminary schedule that we have from the contractor, all of these projects, we expect them to be done by Thanksgiving. This one, this Thanksgiving. Oh my goodness, have faith, my friend. Now, Gear Road, like I said, we are going to the council for approval for final design. We have applied for grants for 4 grants for 4 sections that we are looking at. There is another type of grant that is coming up in the next couple of months that will be available for us to apply for. But based on the schedule of grant review and approval and the design schedule, like I said, mid to late next year for the project to be advertised. Again, we are still in the process of figuring out which sections in what sequence we are going to schedule the construction. We will have another Gear Road public information meeting when we have more information as far as the final design. All of these the council approved on February 27. They are in design, and let me see if I can speak loudly and get a little closer. Andre Lane area is one contract that we are going to expedite. The other one is Donnelly Park and Meadowlark as one construction bid. We want to get those out advertised for construction in late summer, so the contractor at a minimum can finish the concrete work. If we have a dry season, hopefully finish the paving. Otherwise, in summer, in springtime, the moment they can be out there is dry enough, they can go ahead and finish the paving. We want to get those done ahead of Gear Road getting started. But for all of these projects, overall, we expect them to be done sometime, I would say, around this time in 2026. And the reason I say that is the sheer number of streets, and we might run into, again, the weather at the end of next year. and the paving might be delayed to 2026. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes, you can go there. It's not live. So we have to go back and update the information. So, yes, continually we update the roads program webpage. All right, thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody. In closing, I really want to thank you all. We haven't had a turnout like this for our public meetings, and not only were you here, but you had a lot of insightful questions, and we really appreciate that because we're here to serve you and make sure that the job we're doing is something that you guys want. So thank you, and I want to thank Isaac and Fred both for their presentations. They put a lot of work into them, and we're more than lucky to have them on our staff. So thank you all, and I hope you all have a good evening. And make sure you keep her on the website. We'll keep it updated as quickly as we can.